Here's a tutorial for an air trap bead, and I'm going to first start with the bead release. I'm using Foster Fire, and I'm doing it on a 3/32 mandrel. So just dip it in the bead release and slowly pull it out, and then you want to bake it in the flame. You could either let it air dry. I always do the flame bake though, and if you do it slow enough, you'll just have it not crack off the mandrel. So you'll see it slowly turn from gray to white. And that's when you know you're ready to be able to start layering your bead. And I always like to start off with a clear center to try to make it less likely to crack and to save on some color. And this first layer you want to put on very gently, because if you pull or tug too much, you'll end up breaking the bead release and you'll have to start again. And then I'm going to coat it with Ivory. This will be your base color for the bead. And you want to let your bead cool down first, or else you'll smear it and you'll make it less round. So I like to wrap it from right to left and then left to right to have a coating. And you just don't want to see any of that clear underneath. And then melt your bead into a nice round shape. And then I'm going to be using the color green petroleum on this one. I can usually fit 7 dots on a bead this size. So just try to make them as evenly spaced as possible. Let your bead cool a little bit before adding the dots. And I made a mistake here, and I had the piece of color pop off and hit the bead, so I just blew on that piece of color and just knocked it right off, and then covered that spot with a drop of clear, or a drop of color, to hide that. So just evenly space your color all around the bead. And then melt in all the colored dots flat. And then we're going to end up pushing a metal poker into it to trap the air into them. Then let the bead cool down. And spot heat each dot of color, and then just press your tool firmly into it. And if your tool starts to stick into the colored glass, then just dip it in some water because your tool's getting too hot. Then pick a translucent color to put on top of that to encapsulate the air. And you could use clear. I'm using Aqua here. I believe it's light Aqua actually. And just put a nice big dot on top of each one. Try to make the same size clear dot as colored dot, so it'll encapsulate it a lot more evenly. And then go ahead and melt this all in nice and flat, and you'll have your air trap bead. And since I also have extra room on the mandrel, I'd like to add 2 spacer beads onto it just to use up the rest of the space. So then I'll go ahead and just pick that same aqua color and I'll add 2 wraps on both sides, trying to make them as even as possible. And you'll have a nice set of beads.